Welcome, everyone. Give it a couple minutes as people are still joining, but I'm glad everyone could make it today. If you'll just be sure to mute your microphones so there's no disruptions, I would appreciate it. As far as questions goes, feel free to jump in during the presentation, either raising your hand or if you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask as I go along. And then, yeah, sounds good. Well, we'll go ahead and get rolling. I know everyone's very busy and time is precious, but I hope you all had good Thanksgivings and are enjoying your December so far. Hopefully able to find some time to relax and spend some time with family. As I was saying, if you do have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and jump in. Or if you do not feel comfortable with doing that, just type it into the chat and I will try and get to it. Order of this presentation, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about how to be certified, how to maintain your certification if you are already certified, and then how to be able to use the trust mark correctly, either as a vineyard or a winery, before handing it over to Nicholas Gunner, who will talk again more about how to access the workbook in VineBalance. So, how to sign up, how to get access to the workbook, and then how to use the workbook in My Efficient Vineyard. Without further ado, I think y'all are all pretty familiar with the program, either having already been in it or signed up for it. So I won't waste your time talking about that. But first steps first, if you're new to the program or are interested in the program, welcome. If you would like to be certified, it's free to apply. You can do that through a jot form, and you will just need to complete a jot form for each separate vineyard. What is a separate vineyard? A separate vineyard is if it has a separate location that has its own mixing and loading equipment, or is managed independently from your main hub vineyard. So if you have several parcels of land all managed from a singular location, particularly a singular mixing and loading station, you can certify those as a single vineyard. But if you have vineyards on either side of, say, Seneca Lake, and you manage those with different equipment, you fill up your spray tanks at separate locations for both of those vineyards, those would each require their own independent application. Once you apply, you will receive a Google Doc of the VineBalance. This will be the last year of using Google Doc. It's impossible to push out updates as the program grows, so we will be moving over to My Efficient Vineyard, but you still have the option to complete it on a Google Sheet or a Google Doc this year. And again, I just want to reiterate, all information you enter into your VineBalance and also into any other forms you request is held private and is not shared with anyone else. So there shouldn't be any concerns about that, aside from it being shared with your vineyard auditors for obvious purposes. So again, how to get certified. Apply for the program if this is your first year. Complete the jot form application, separate application for each vineyard. Complete the VineBalance Workbook, either in Google Sheets or MyEV. You must achieve a minimum score of 75% of the total score if you would like to be certified. And then you have to complete an in-person audit if it's your first year, where all scores of 1 in the workbook must be accompanied by an action plan. So all that's saying is, if on the workbook, scores of 1 through 4, if you score 1, we need an action plan to show that you're planning on improving that if you want to be certified. And then going through the in-person audit, where the auditor will sit down with you, review VineBalance, and then see that it matches reality. Scores might go up, scores might go down, so be ready to adjust your scores, be ready to be flexible. It's very much a conversation and not someone coming in and telling you you did things wrong or did things right. Here's what it looks like the VineBalance Workbook currently looks like on Google Sheets. Again, all of y'all are probably pretty familiar with it. Scores have been adjusted since the first year, so the score of 411 must be achieved if you would like to be certified. Can be completed on Google Documents or on My Efficient Vineyard. The deadline for completion this certification year is January 31st. So whether you're up for maintaining certification, so recertification, or you are up for a first-time certification, you must complete all required information by January 31st. Here's what the action plan sheet looks like. Again, this is incorporated in to the VineBalance Workbook, but if you would like to have one or complete it on a separate sheet of paper and email it to it separately, that's fine. Just make sure you have it ready for the in-person auditor when they ask for it. And again, due at the same time as VineBalance, January 31st. So if you're here, you're already certified, what do you need to do in order to maintain certification? Again, most of you should already be familiar with this, but every year you need to update your copy of VineBalance. So for most of you, this is going to look like going through the workbook that you've already completed. Again, it's the same Google document. It's a living document. I'm not going to send you a new one. You should still have the link from the last one you completed. If not, I can resend that link to you if you lost it. But you need to go through that, ensure that all scores are updated and accurate to reflect any changes and practices you've made. This year, we did not make any changes to the workbook because we plan on doing the big overhaul next year when we're in MyEV to kind of, push out the new updates. And I know a large chunk of you will be going through a new in-person audit. So it should be fairly simple this year, but prepare for more work heading into next year. So after you've updated your copy of VineBalance, you also need to update your action plans. And this looks like looking at the action plans you completed last year, updating those if you've made progress on them, or if you have not made progress on them, explaining why. And then if you have any new action plans or new ideas you would like to take over or progress in the future, writing those down as well. Again, if you have any scores of 1, they must be accompanied by an action plan this year. You also must complete the annual review. The annual review is very important. It's going to ask what grapes did you produce, how much of them you produced, and who did you sell them for. This is essential for us to be able to do contact tracing to ensure that wineries putting labels on bottles of the Sustainability Trust Mark aren't lying, right? If we want to have a trust mark that's reliable and trusted by consumers, we have to be able to enforce it and say this vineyard or this winery shouldn't be using this trust mark. It shouldn't be on this bottle of wine. They're lying to try and abuse the program. So the annual review is essential for us to be able to contact trace. So that also must be completed by January 31st to maintain certification. And then keep up to date with all new program requirements. Again, this year, no new rollouts, but just be aware that in the future, things may change. Now, every third year, so for a large percentage of you, that will be next year. You will have to undergo a new in-person audit. It'll be exactly like the first year in-person audit. You're already probably familiar with it. It should go smoothly. However, one thing to remember is that by this third year, so it'll be your fourth year of certification, no scores of 1 will be allowable. As we've talked about, all your scores of 1 must be accompanied with an action plan. This is kind of the idea to get you in the program, start your sustainability journey or continue your sustainability journey. But by this time in the program, you've had enough time to hopefully improve. That being said, I understand the workbook presently isn't perfect. So if there are certain action items or certain items where you do not believe it is possible or you think the scoring is unfair and that you cannot possibly raise your score above a 1, please reach out to me. Again, this workbook is living, it's changing, it's not set in stone. So if you think there's something unfair and you think you're going to lose certification because you are unable to raise a score above a 1, reach out. We'll reevaluate. And if there are enough complaints or discussion around a certain action item, it can be changed. But be aware, you do not want to lose your certification, that by the next in-person audit, no scores of 1 in your workbook. And then just to reiterate, any factors of non-compliance can result in certification being revoked. This isn't something that you get and then you're set for life with it. It's a year on year basis. It's progress. It is constantly evolving. So make sure you're staying up to date with it. Otherwise, you again will lose certification. You will not be able to market your wine or your vineyard with the trust mark. All right. So again, reiterate, First year of certification, sign up for the program, complete VineBalance Workbook on either Google Documents, Google Sheets, or My Efficient Vineyard. Submit any action plans also within the VineBalance or separately, and undergo an in-person inspection. That's what you need to take care of. If you're looking to maintain certification, you need to update your VineBalance Workbook on Google Documents, or you can make the switch over to My Efficient Vineyard, which will be required next year. I highly recommend this to have this kind of year where you update your VineBalance Workbook on Google Docs and you start using it on My Efficient Vineyard to get familiar with the system, because it'll cut down on the stress of next year, especially if you were certified in the first year and are also undergoing an in-person inspection. That's a lot of new stuff. That's a lot on your plate next year. So trying to use it this year. It'll also be helpful for us because we can work out bugs and make sure the platform runs smoothly if we have more of y'all's feedback. Next, update any action plans. Again, reminder, all scores of 1 must have an action plan. And then if you're undergoing in-person audit, then for the second time, no scores of 1 will be allowable. So prepare for that. Start looking at what vineyard practices you need to change in order to be compliant. And then finally, complete the annual review. Very important for us, very important for the program, and very important for you if you want the trust mark to have any meaning to you and the consumer. So we've been talking a lot about the trust mark. Who can use the trust mark? Certified vineyards and wineries who produce eligible bottles to bear the trust mark. There's a little picture of the trust mark. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. Hopefully, it's on many of your bottles and many of your marketing materials. So requirements for vineyards. As we talked about, if you need to be certified. If you undergo the processes above, if you meet the minimum score on the VineBalance Workbook and you successfully complete the in-person audit, you're eligible to use the trust mark on your vineyards. Now, you have to maintain the certification process, as we talked about, every year. Make sure you're up to date on action plans, annual reports. You can continue to use the trust mark. And on top of that, you also have to have submitted a vineyard trust mark usage agreement, which is just saying that we have legal rights over the trust marks. You're allowed to use it as long as you maintain requirements of certification, and that we can revoke the use of the trust mark if you fail to comply with those standards. How do you use a trust mark as a vineyard? On your signage, on your packaging, on your website, on your social media, pretty much anywhere you want. Anywhere that's affiliated with your vineyard, you can put the trust mark because your vineyard is certified sustainable. Now, if you own multiple vineyards and one is certified but another is not, you have a little bit more work to do. You have to be very particular about indicating when you're using the trust mark which vineyard is certified. And that's just, again, to ensure that we're being transparent and honest with the end consumer, whoever that may be, and we're not trying to greenwash or lie about what we are certifying sustainable. So how do wineries use the trust mark? Because ultimately, that's what the end consumer is going to see. That's hopefully where we're going to see the preferential purchasing and the price increase. And that's where a lot of the pressure, honestly, is coming from, is the end consumer, at least in the States where we don't have buying monopolies. So if you're a winery and you would like to put the trust mark on your bottle, as of 2024, the wine inside must be composed of 90% certified grapes. This hasn't been an issue in the past. Pretty much all bottles have been 100% certified grapes, and we'll be raising this 5% every year. This is just, again, as we were first starting out, to allow for the lack of certified grapes without impacting production. If you do that, then you also have to complete a signed winery trust mark agreement. Much like the vineyard trust mark agreement, you must complete one for your winery, because since we are only certifying vineyards, we view wineries and vineyards as separate entities, so we need separate legal contracts for both of them. A little annoying, a little redundant, but our lawyer assures us it is required and very important. And then finally, for each bottle you wish to put the trust mark on, you must submit a winery trust mark application. It looks like what's on the left. We want to see the wine name. We want to see what grapes you've put into it, what percentage of those grapes are in the bottle, and where those, what vineyard those grapes are coming from. And this works in conjunction with the annual report to, again, allow us to do contact tracing and assure that a winery isn't claiming to be sustainable and using the trust mark on the bottle willy-nilly. So very important that you complete this if you want to use the trust mark on your bottles. So again, where can wineries use the trust mark? If you are a winery with 80% of your portfolio consisting of certified wines, again, hasn't been an issue. Most wineries tend to be only producing certified wines or wines with certified grapes or not, but there's a little wiggle room. Perhaps you have like a bulk wine that you're buying from someone who is yet to be certified. That's not going to inhibit you from using the trust mark in your broader winery marketing, such as on your website, your packaging, or your social media. However, if you are using it in your winery marketing, you need to clarify that we are not certifying your winery. You need to ensure that we're not saying this wine is sustainable. We're not certifying any of the packaging or anything like that. We're only certifying the vineyard practices and the grapes grown within. So your wine is produced with New York Sustainable Winegrowing certified grapes, not this wine is New York Sustainable Winegrowing certified sustainable. And then obviously you can use it on the bottles, the packaging, signages, any sort of information you like to put on the bottle or anything going to the distributor or the endpoint marketer that they use in their marketing. You can use the trust mark on that information as well. One thing to remember is that the TTB does require new colas if you're adding the trust mark to your label. Everyone I've talked to said it's been pretty painless. You just put in a new request, it's approved. But even if you're adding stickers, so you're not printing out brand new labels to affix to the bottles, even if you're just like adding the little trust mark sticker that is available for purchase from us onto the bottle, the TTB still considers that a change of label and requires new cola. So just be aware of that. It shouldn't be a surprise that and budget that into your time from certification and labeling that you will need a new cola. And then acceptable language and claims. Um, again, where can you make claims about sustainability? So not just using the trust marks, but saying that we're producing with sustainable grapes or our vineyard is, sustainable. Just be very clear about what is certified, what isn't certified. But other than that, you can use and make claims referencing us anywhere you would like. That's all I had in terms of how to be certified, how to maintain certification, and how to continue to use the trust mark. Any questions, any confusions about the program or how to maintain your status within it? And then again, if you don't feel comfortable speaking up now, reach out to me later. More than happy to get on a phone call with you, discuss it, hear your opinion, talk about what you like, what you don't like, and changes you would like to see. We'll also be going on a roadshow with the New York Wine and Grape Foundation next year in March through May, I want to say. So we'll be going around visiting you guys like we did last year. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to hear your opinions on the program, the trust mark, and what you would like to see in the future. So if there's no questions, you're familiar with the standards and what you need to do, then I'll hand it over to Nicholas to start talking about My Efficient Vineyard, which really is the future of this program. We'll be able to simplify it, consolidate all these requirements into a single checklist, and hopefully make it easier, not only for me, but also for y'all.
Can everybody hear me okay? Good, Justin? Okay. So yeah, I'm Nick Gunner. I am the sort of developer of Efficient Vineyard. I've been working with the Cornell Lake Erie Regional Extension Laboratory on this project for the last 6 or 7 years. Just a quick, if you're unfamiliar with Efficient Vineyard, it is a mapping tool for vineyards. We've geared it to be a general purpose mapping tool. There's all sorts of features with the core Efficient Vineyard platform. If you go to efficientvineyard.com, you'll see this viticulture blog. These are sort of walkthroughs of some of the common uses of the tool. MyEV documentation here, this is sort of the user manual of the tool. So any feature within the tool, you can learn about the platform there. Today, we're not going to talk about the core use of Efficient Vineyard, but just so you're aware, it is a mapping tool for your vineyard. You can collect data on your cell phone. You can analyze that data. You can create maps. You can export those maps and use them to manage anything about your vineyard. So there's also this contact tab right here. And as I'm going through the VineBalance introduction here, If you have any questions that you want to direct toward me, of course, you can reach out to Justin for sure, but you can also just use this contact tab here to reach out to me as well about anything about the platform, anything that you like, don't like, that's broken. Please feel free to use that button right there. So I'm not going to talk about how to create an efficient vineyard account. You can use the MyEV documentation to do that. It's pretty simple. You go to efficientvineyard.com, you click on MyEV Tool. If you have an account, you'll just log in to your farm. If you don't, you'll just create an account and set up your farm. And I'm happy to share, we have some good tutorials on the basics of getting started with Efficient Vineyard if you haven't done that yet. But once you're all set up, you've got your farm established, you've mapped some blocks in your farm. There is this plugins drawer right here. The plugins are kind of all of the advanced pieces of Efficient Vineyard. Long story short, we're creating the New York Wine and Grape Foundation a plugin for Efficient Vineyard, which is going to be your hub for all things VineBalance, the sustainability program, when you're submitting documents or agreements, all of it's going to be in this one place. So it's a little bit of a lift to get on this system, but our hope is, and our long-term intention is that once everyone's on, once we work out the kinks, get all the plumbing working properly, that it'll really be a central hub for all of us to be able to come together and simplify the process each year of adjusting those bits of data that are relevant to the program. So anyway, you go into this plugins folder, you'll click on plugin library, and then you'll see the New York Wines plugin. You'll activate that plugin, and then in that plugins drawer, you'll see there's the plugin right there. We have to approve you to gain access to the plugin. So when you launch it, first time, you won't see the portal working properly. You'll see like we have to approve you or something to that effect. So that's normal. This first year really is a trial year. So we're looking for kind of folks interested in helping alleviate a little stress from next year, but also willing to work with us a little bit because this is a year where we're going to run into all the bugs. We're going to need to figure out the most smooth way to plumb all the notifications so that when you activate your plugin, we get a notification and we can approve you, and then you get a notification and know that you've been approved. All of those nuanced little things that we can't really think about necessarily in the development process, but we run into in reality. So this is a great opportunity for us to learn from you. And but in the end, you'll have your documents all set up this year so that next year, when it's required, it'll be much more fluid and easy for you to do this process. Again, you don't have to this year. You can just use the Google Doc. That's totally fine. So in here, you'll see at the top, there is right now just the VineBalance 2024. And so this is just like your Google Doc. You push start new, and you can see I've already started one here. So I'll go ahead and continue this. Every time you make a change, every time you jump from page to page within this form, it saves it. So you can kind of do a page or two, walk away, come back, and it updates your progress right here. When you get started, the most important thing is this label up at the top. This is really just a little note to yourself. You'll see I have this test form label right here. Here it is. The reason we have this label is if you have multiple vineyards that are managed differently, but you want them both certified, or you have different farms, there's all sorts of reasons why you would do multiple VineBalance workbooks. You'll want to label these. So this would be, vineyard A through D, and then the next one would be vineyard F, etc. So other than that, it's pretty simple. You just work through the workbook just the way you would in the Google form or the Google Doc. So you put in your label, read some text, you push next, read some text. You can jump through all these pages using this menu up at the top. And there's a blocks page, this is where you're going to select which blocks from MyEV you're certifying in this form. Every question in the system has an area for comments, and it also has an area for action plans. As Justin mentioned, action plans are really, really important. Certain questions we will require comment, and you'll see these little required labels here. So if I was working on this question right here related to the vineyard map, and actually, Justin, I need to update this because right now it's requiring an action plan if you give it a 2 as well. I don't know if that was a change, but I'll make a note to change that. But if you give it a 1, you're going to see there's an action plan required here, and you just write your action plan right here, give it a when you expect to be able to complete that action plan, and submit that action plan. And then you'll see that here in this list. And what this is going to do is in the end, when you're all done with your form, you'll have a nice simple list of all your action plans in one place that you can more easily go through and manage. Comments work very similar. They're just a comment on this particular question. Does this all make sense so far? I don't want to be too convoluted or confusing, so I'm hoping I'm not confusing anyone thus far. Okay. It should look very similar to your Google document. You're basically going through these rubrics and selecting the answers on each given topic. And when you get to the end, it will spit out your scores for each category. And when you're content with your form, you can push final submission. When that final submission goes in, then we can take a look at it. Your auditor will be able to go through and audit it, and you'll get to see, you'll see your answers. Let me see here if I go into input reduction. So you'll see my answers are being highlighted in black here. As the auditor goes through, if they make any adjustments, you'll be able to see your original score that you gave that question, and then you'll see a red box around the adjustment from the auditor. And then you can have a conversation in the comments area with that auditor. So yeah, so that's this plugin in a nutshell thus far. We will have other forms up here. Again, if we have agreement documents, those will be very similar, and those will be found up here. And then you'll see this list down here will be all of the forms that you're either working on or have submitted or are being audited. And then the following year, so the first year, this is a little bit tedious. You have to launch VineBalance, you have to go through all of the questions and answer them, and then submit that, and it'll be a little bit of work. But the following year, we built a basically import answers from last year button, which will just pull over all your answers from the previous year, and then you can just make the few adjustments you need to. And let's see. I think that was in when you start new. I may not have pushed that feature out yet because it doesn't matter because nobody's done this for the first year yet. So any questions on this so far? I don't know where my chat. There's a help button right here. Yeah. This help button is going to take you over to our documentation related to this plugin. And I think there's a video. There should be a video right here. It might be just loading slowly. I'll update that video as we push out new versions. And that's going to just basically do what I'm doing right now. It's going to walk you through how to use the plugin. You can also read about how to use it. And yeah, we'll try to keep this as accurate as possible. So once again, help button is always right there in the plugin itself. If you go to efficientvineyard.com, there's contact. And then if you're interested in the mapping features, which I recommend checking out, they're all free and part of the platform. You can use the viticulture blog tab to check that out. Okay, if there's no questions, wait, I have one here. Yes, good question. The question is it possible to add multiple people or logins to one MyEV account? That's a great question. So here in my farm, if I go up to the farm name, which I call Datasets Test Farm, very boringly in this one, there's a collaborators tab. And inside there, you can add anyone who's in the system who has their email address in Efficient Vineyard. You can add their email address and invite them, and then you can give them various permissions. And I believe that editors, definitely administrators, but editors would have access to your VineBalance workbook. And so you could collaborate on one workbook. You can have multiple farms too. So there's multiple ways that you might um, organize this. So the simplest is just to have one master farm. It has all your blocks in it, and you have your one Wine and Grape Foundation plugin that you manage all your forms in. Sometimes, though, there are situations where you might actually have 5 farms or 3 farms in various locations. Then each farm justifies its own farm in Efficient Vineyard. So you can add multiple farms by going to user settings, my farms, and you can add more farms. You'll see I have a lot of farms because I'm collaborating on a lot of farms with a lot of people. So I hope that's not overly confusing. Again, we have some really great in the MyEV documentation here. We have this tutorials tab, but there's also this getting started, these handful of videos within, 15, 20 minutes, you can really understand the platform quite well. Any other questions?
I would like, oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead, Justin.
No, I was just going to say that the informational website he has put together is a phenomenal resource. Again, if you are confused about how to navigate My Efficient Vineyard, how to navigate VineBalance on the platform, I highly recommend pointing you in that direction. And then I have a couple logistical notes, but I'll let you finish.
I was just going to mention that this year, particularly this January, because I'm essentially going to be full-time working on this to iron out any wrinkles, which there will be many. Um, that's the goal of this year. And so communication is key. If you want to use the new forms in the system, please communicate with us to make sure we're aware you're planning to do that. And then we will be very attuned to when you run into something, responding to that issue quickly, because we don't want to cause you too much more friction. There will be more friction this first year. That's why we're doing this sort of trial year to try to really iron out the system, make it as smooth and simple as possible. So I appreciate your patience and forgiveness, because there will be definitely a little bit of friction this first year, but we expect to smooth it out so the next year is nice and simple. So
Yeah. Again, feedback on all aspects of this program is always welcome. Logistically, I know some of you all have signed up to have the VineBalance integrated into your Efficient Vineyard. Access has not been released, but planning on releasing by the end of the week for all signups. One thing to be said though, if you did sign up and your farm is named something different than what is on your VineBalance, please reach out to me. So if you have signed up and the name is different and doesn't correlate to what you put on your JotForm application or is presently on your VineBalance workbook, let me know so we can correlate those two together and make sure I'm not missing anything. Also, if you have yet to sign up, please put your farm name as what is on our records, either in the JotForm or the VineBalance workbook, just so we can make sure that's all together. A little peek behind the curtain at what's coming next. Mainly, we view this as a tool for you guys. We want to streamline things. We want to make it easier to make changes to the workbook to better fit the realities of agriculture on the ground. We also want to make it easier for you to keep track of and determine where your next steps are going to be for your vineyard. So I view the conversation tool with the auditors and being able to look back at the history and see the improvement of your scores on the workbook as invaluable. Really happy about that. We're also planning on integrating pesticide tracking form. I know I've been talking about that a lot, but we finally received funding and we'll be moving forward with that next year. Also, fertilizer tracking forms. So that way, when the auditor comes in, you'll have all the inputs that you put into your vineyard in one location. They can review it ahead of time to, again, hopefully streamline the process of the audit, but also to serve as a tool for you. So you can easily evaluate not only what you're putting on and into your vineyards, but the cost as well. And because this is on a geospatial mapping app, hopefully, if you choose to, you can break that down on a block by block basis to better see the cost of production by block and by grape type and by cultivar. So hopefully, just again, cutting down, becoming more efficient in all aspects, especially financially. We view that as the bonus. And again, if there was anything else you would like to see integrated into the workbook, checklists, stuff like that, we're all planning on. But if there's anything you want to see integrated into My Efficient Vineyard that would be useful for you, whether sustainability focused or not, please do let us know and we'll work to getting that integrated. So anything that's helpful for you guys, we'll get that. Nicholas is doing great work. It's come a long way since we first saw it, so I'm really excited about that. And again, if you have any questions about certification, the program, any criticisms, any desires, please reach out to me and let me know. Now, open the floor to questions and comment if anyone has anything. If not, I'll let you guys have the rest of your day. Nicholas, do you have anything else?
No, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to seeing the trust marks out there in the wild, and I'm just grateful to help be a part of it.
Great. I will say the for myself, I'll type that in. I will say I recently got back
I
from a trip with the Foreign Ag Service and USDA, looking at sustainable certifications and practices going on in Portugal. And I will say New York is a phenomenal region to grow grapes, and the effort and dedication put in by you guys, the viticulturalists, towards preserving the environment, to having a healthy work balance and cooperation with your employees, and just your forward-lookingness towards sustainability, head and shoulders. I know sometimes New York gets a bad rap, but in reality, y'all are doing a great job. All right. Well, no questions. I will let y'all go. Thank you for attending, and I look forward to working with y'all in the future.